All right, welcome to the Village of Winnetka regular Village Council meeting, March 3rd, 2026. And we'll call this meeting to order and ask our village manager. First, everyone mute your cell phones, please. And Kristen, if you could do a roll call for attendance.
Trustee Myers.
Here.
Trustee Dahlman.
Here.
Trustee Orsick.
Here.
Trustee Albinson.
Here.
Trustee Handler.
Here.
Trustee Apatow has provided the required notice that he is unable to attend tonight's meeting due to work obligations. Our rules provide that Trustee Apatow may participate remotely unless two-thirds of the board objects. Is there any objection? Hearing none, Trustee Apatow may now participate remotely fully in the meeting, and the minutes should so reflect.
Trustee Apatow.
Here.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and Trustee Handler. Oh, there he is.
Right there.
Kim, would you lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kim. Kristen, can we do a quorum check for upcoming meetings?
Our next regular meeting is Thursday, March 19th. That was published as a regular meeting due to the election on our regularly scheduled day of Tuesday. Everyone expect to attend that one?
I'll have to attend remotely because I'll be out of town for work.
Okay. And then
Just let me know what I need to do.
Yes, be happy to. And then we have 3 meetings in April. April 7th, regular meeting, the 14th study session, and then the 21st regular meeting.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Terrific. We'll move on to item 4, public comments. Now, let's give anyone in the audience who would like to speak about an item not on tonight's agenda. And if so, please remember to keep your public comments to a maximum of 3 minutes so that everyone has an opportunity to speak. Would anyone like to make a public comment tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public comments and we'll move on to reports. And we'll start at this end. Trustee Myers.
No report.
Trustee Dahlman.
No report.
Trustee Orsick.
No report.
Trustee Albinson.
Sure. I'll make a brief report. This past Sunday, I attended at the Village Green, hosted by the Winnetka Congregational Church, a gathering of different faith leaders in the community and a number of folks from the community that attended as a stand against anti-Semitism and just a show of unity for the community. It was a great event, lots of good singing, just heartfelt connections with community members. So I was glad to attend.
That's great. Kirk, thank you for attending. We appreciate you representing the council at that event. Thank you. Village Attorney. Oh, Trustee Handler.
No report.
Trustee Apatow.
Quick one, just a shout out to the Winnetka Fire Department for handling a fire, I believe it was last night, next door to me on Ardsley, and this looks like everybody got it okay, and but they, once again handled things with remarkable precision and support from the community, their other firefighters and other communities. So just thanks up to the Winnetka Fire Department.
Thank you for that, Rob. Yep, that was great work. Village Attorney. Village Manager.
I do have a brief report. This week, President Dearborn and I had the opportunity to tour the new Chase Bank building. A temporary occupancy permit was issued. The construction is going really well, and we understand that they plan to be open by the end of this month, which is great news. And it really is a beautiful building. So once it's open, I would encourage people to stop by and see the final building. And thank you to everyone in the community, the businesses and the residents for your patience during the downtown construction. The other item I'd like to note is the historic bench opportunity that we're partnering with the Historical Society has gone very well. We only have 3 benches left. So if you'd like one, please visit the Historic Society website for that final opportunity. And we appreciate their partnership on that really successful event.
And how do the proceeds get allocated on that, Kristen?
The proceeds are allocated 50/50 with the Historical Society. The funds that the village receives will go to offset the cost of restoring our historic mural. Again, on your way out, take a look. It just celebrated its 100th anniversary of being presented to the village by the Chamber of Commerce on March 1 of 1926. So it's beautifully restored, and we encourage you to stop by and take a look at the mural and its beauty.
Great, great. Well, a little slice of Winnetka if you want to buy one of those benches. They're going fast. Back on the Chase, they had, the people from Skender, the general contractor, gave us a tour of the building. It really is quite beautiful. And they had wonderful things to say about community development and working through this process with the people downstairs in your office, Scott. So very complimentary on that. So we appreciated that. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove any item on the consent agenda for a separate vote? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the final form of the consent agenda?
So moved.
And that is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. And we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. I'll ask the village manager to read the items on the consent agenda.
Approval of the village council minutes for the February 3rd, 2026 special meeting and the February 3rd, 2026 regular meeting. Approval of the warrant list dated February 13th, 2026 to February 26th, 2026 in the amount of $1,835,128.03. Resolution number R08, 2026, approving a professional service agreement with Strand Associates for construction engineering services for the Ravine Sanitary Pumping Station and Force Main Rehabilitation for adoption. Resolution number R20, 2026, waiving bidding and approving a contract with Conservation of Sculpture and Objects Studio for cenotaph maintenance services for adoption. Resolution number R21, 2026, approving a contract with Hoare Construction for sewer relining work for adoption. Resolution number R2022-2026, waiving bidding and approving an agreement with A-Lamp Concrete Contractors Incorporated for post office building demolition and site restoration for adoption. Resolution number R23-2026, approving a contract with Yellowstone Landscape for the purchase and planting of parkway trees for adoption. Resolution number R25-2026, waiving bidding and approving the disposal of public works equipment and the purchase of a new public works equipment from Burris Equipment for adoption. Resolution number R26-2026, approving intergovernmental agreements with the villages of Northfield, Glencoe, and Wilmette for the use of the village's fire department training tower for adoption. Resolution number R27-2026, approving a non-exclusive license agreement for the use of the Elm Street train station parking lot and Station Park for a farmer's market for adoption. Resolution number R29-2026, approving a contract with BLD Services LLC for manhole rehabilitation services for adoption. Resolution number R31-2026, approving an outdoor dining agreement with Paradise Foods LLC for adoption and approval of the annual outdoor seating area permits.
Wow. There is actually more on the agenda than just consent, so that was a mouthful. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by omnibus vote?
So moved. Second?
And that, Kristen, that's a roll call vote.
Trustee Orsick,
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman,
Yes.
Trustee Handler, Trustee Albinson,
Yes.
Trustee Myers,
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on to item 8, ordinances and resolutions. 8A, this is resolution number R2826, approving a non-exclusive license agreement for use of Winnetka property for the Winnetka Music Festival, and this is being considered for adoption. Tonight, council will consider a non-exclusive license agreement for the use of village property regarding the 2026 Winnetka Music Festival. And our Deputy Village Manager, Hannah Lipman, is here to review. Hannah, welcome to the podium.
My first time. Thank you, President Dearborn, and good evening, Council. Before you tonight is the approval for the license agreement for the 2026 Winnetka Music Festival. By means of history, the Winnetka Music Festival began in 2017, co-sponsored by the Village and the Winnetka Northfield Glencoe Chamber of Commerce, and has now reached its 10th year. This year, the festival will be taking place on Friday, June 19th and Saturday, June 20th on Lincoln Avenue between Pine Street and Elm Street along the village-owned Lincoln Avenue parking lot, and is expected to attract thousands of visitors to Winnetka. Given the scope and extensive footprint of the event, each year the village adopts a formal license agreement before granting approval of the special use permit, or special event permit, excuse me. The license agreement is between the village, the Winnetka Northfield Glencoe Chamber of Commerce, and Valsis, the event promoter and operator. Terms of the agreement remain generally consistent compared to last year's agreement, with minor adjustments to time. This year, the event will be permitted to open to the public beginning at 4 p.m. on Friday, June 19th, instead of 5 p.m. This will allow for enough time for patrons to get through the gates to see the opening performance. Additionally, setup is approved to begin as early as 6 a.m. on Thursday, June 18th, instead of 6 p.m. This change really just documents how setup operations occurred last year, starting with the closure of the municipal parking lot behind the community house and the parking lot entrance for 711 Oak. From there, it is anticipated the remainder of the downtown area will close around 5 p.m. on Thursday. All closures will be done in coordination with village staff and with proper communications to businesses and residents. Staff has already had our initial meeting with the Valsis team to begin planning. Other key points identified in the licensing agreement include site maintenance, support and restoration after the event, security, emergency services and first aid, parking, signage and marketing, waste management, restrooms, and insurance requirements. The Winnetka Music Festival organizers and village staff will be coordinating logistics with One Winnetka project developers to ensure coordination of a safe and successful event during construction activities. Staff is recommending approval of the license agreement in anticipation of another great year for the Winnetka Music Festival.
Okay, Hannah, thank you for that. Any questions first for Hannah on this issue? It's a huge event in town here, that's for sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
And I apologize because I was reading some of this while you were talking, but if you already said it, but what access do the existing retailers in the areas that are going to be, whatever, blocked off, what access will they and their patrons have before the event starts, but after the mobilization starts?
It is a great question. So I can't speak to the specifics right now. It has been a topic of discussion. It did come up. I know in prior years there has been a little bit of confusion in terms of when businesses are still open to the public versus when the event starts. So it did come up at our meeting that we had last week, and something that we know that we need to continue to address and communicate.
Would anyone up here like to address that question? Scott?
If you need more information, Kirk, I'm more than happy to. So in terms of the way it works.
Sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah.
ask for the clarification now for just a question.
Well, no, that's okay. Is there a
Happy-
quick,
yeah, no,
is
I'm
there a
happy
quick
to-
answer to this? Because it has come up in the
And I
past.
can go down there if it's
No, that's okay.
appropriate. So the way it works is when we shut down the downtown on Thursday, starting at 5 o'clock, right? There can't be any cars in the downtown area. Up until then, people can park, people can go into stores. After that, they have to park outside the festival grounds, and then at that point, everything is secured. On Friday, when the grounds are closed, people can park, and we have a shuttle. We have golf carts that shuttle people from parking by the Village Green or parking up by the Congregational Church into the downtown area. We've worked with some of the retailers one-on-one when they have appointments to get people to their specific appointments. So that's then on Friday, up until when the gates go up at 5 o'clock, or this year, 4 o'clock when the gates open. Then If anybody needs to get to a business, so for example, there are pediatricians' offices. People will go to the will call, say, I've got an appointment. We escort them to and from their appointment.
It's a big logistical
Yeah.
exercise.
And the same is true for people who live in that area. They, within the festival grounds, they get wristbands so they can go to and from freely.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Hannah? Would anyone in the public like to make a comment on this topic, the license for the music festival? Seeing none, we'll bring it back here. Any other discussion on this topic? We're going to have a motion and vote on this. How are you going to handle this?
I'll abstain.
Abstain? Okay, so we'll have two abstentions on this. And may I have a motion to adopt resolution number R28, 2026?
So moved. Second.
And that is a roll call vote. Kristen?
Trustee Dahlman,
Yes.
Trustee Orsick,
Yes.
Trustee Handler,
I've abstained or recused myself.
Trustee Albinson,
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff,
Yes.
Trustee Myers.
Abstention.
I think that passed 4-0. All right, good luck to the music festival. We'll hear more about that in coming weeks and months. We'll move on to item 8B, resolution number R30, 2026, approving a non-exclusive license agreement for the use of the Elm Street train station parking lot for an artisan market. Tonight, council will consider a non-exclusive license agreement for the use of village property for a new artisan market. And again, Deputy Village Manager Hannah Lippman will come up to review. Welcome back, Hannah.
Thank you, President Dearborn. The item before council is a license agreement for the use of Elm Street train station parking lot for an artisan market coming to Winnetka for the first time May 30th and May 31st. I'll provide a quick overview before handing it over to Jonathan Smith, Managing Partner of INV Marketing Group, doing business as the North Shore Artisan Market, to share a bit more. The INV Marketing Group has been supporting locally owned small businesses in the greater Chicago area via digital media, retail pop-ups, and signature events for more than 20 years. Existing markets include locations in Chicago's Fulton Market and Ravenswood neighborhoods, Oak Brook, and Naperville. While this will be the first time the market is held in Winnetka, the North Shore Artisan Market has hosted similar pop-ups in Northbrook and Wilmette. The Artisan Market will be taking place at the Elm Street train station parking lot in Station Park. Organizers of the market are in the process of completing a rental agreement with the Park District separate from this agreement for the use of Station Park. The market will be free to the public and expects to attract residents and visitors to the area, supporting local businesses and activating the public space around the train station. Key points identified in the license agreement include location, dates, and times for setup, operations, and cleanup, defined use of the premises, parking, waste management and utilities coordination, and insurance requirements. With that, I would like to introduce Jonathan Smith, Managing Partner for the INV Marketing Group, to share more about the market that's coming to Winnetka and if there's any questions that he can answer for council.
Thank you, Hannah. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Smith, and as Hannah said, I'm the managing partner of the North Shore Artisan Market, the Chicago Artisan Market, and similarly themed artisan markets in Oak Brook, at Oak Brook Center, as well as at Naperville at Citygate Center. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and we're really excited to have the chance to bring the North Shore Artisan Market to downtown Winnetka the week before Labor Day. We've been producing signature events in the Chicago area for 20 plus years, and our flagship Chicago Artisan Market, which is held at historic Morgan Manufacturing, has been around since 2018. Since that time, we've hosted over 75 successful artisan markets in both city and suburban locations, and we currently showcase over 1,000 artisans and small businesses from throughout Chicago and the Midwest on an annual basis. Each one of our markets has roughly 100 artisan vendors in the areas of food, fashion, home goods, and functional and decorative art. We're not a farmer's market, and we're not a fine arts market. We showcase artisans and small businesses who design and make things locally, both in the Chicago area and throughout the Midwest. Our vendors, I think you'll find, are hardworking people who embody a city that works mentality, and we found that giving local and area shoppers the chance to meet them not only makes for a good community event, but it also brings goodwill and incremental sales to surrounding businesses. As we like to say, keep your friends close and your supply chain closer. Our city markets are held indoors in historic and inspiring former manufacturing buildings in neighborhoods like Fulton Market and Ravenswood. And our suburban markets are held outdoors in accessible and picturesque locations, Oak Brook Center, Citygate Center, Village Green Park, and downtown Northbrook. Train buffs might notice that the North Shore Artisan logo is actually an homage to the old North Shore Line logo, which operated between 1916 and 1963. One of our thoughts, and one of the reasons why we're locating in downtown Northbrook near the train station there, and in downtown Winnetka, is with everything that's happened with COVID, we want to encourage people to ride the trains again so that they remain financially viable for all of us for a long time into the future. Thanks again for your time, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and our Deputy Village Manager, Hannah, thank you. Questions for Mr. Smith or for Hannah?
Can you talk a little bit about how the event will be marketed?
So we not only have 20 years of pop-up event marketing experience, but we've also been digital marketers for over 20 years. We have 50,000 people on an email list across all of our markets. We have probably 50, 60,000 people that we reach through Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And when I mention those numbers, those are also people who are in the Chicago area. So we call it like Tide Concentrate. You know, it's people that are not only locally targeted, but they're also very interested in supporting neighborhood businesses and shopping small, local, and sustainable. One of the things that we find is when you have an intentional shopper who's there for a reason, you know, it's good for everyone, including the surrounding neighborhood businesses.
So based on the marketing and the first time event at a location, what would make you feel good in terms of turnout?
You know what? When we launched in Northbrook 2 years ago, we were very fortunate. I think we had a couple of thousand people per day spread out throughout the day, and vendors did extremely well, especially for a first-time market. The only thing I will say about last year, I don't know if you remember June 21st and 22nd last year, but it was 105 degrees.
I do remember that.
2 days in a row, and that was tough, but amazingly enough, even though I probably would have not have gone outside in that weather, people came out and shopped, and vendors still sold. So it was pretty incredible, actually. Our Ravenswood market that we had this past Small Shop Saturday was actually held during the snowstorm, and we had 10 inches of snow. And again, amazingly enough, when you have intentional shoppers, they still come out.
Other questions? Tina?
I just wanted to clarify, I think you said the weekend before Labor Day, but it's.
The weekend after the weekend after Memorial Day, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so and that's a weekend prior to the start of the farmer's market.
That's correct.
So it doesn't create, it's a nice way to kick off the season on a Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
For those 2 days. I just wanted to clarify that for the folks.
I'm glad you did that. And actually, after we spoke with John Lynch in the fall, we came to the last farmers market of the year. I think I might have met you, Tina.
Yep.
And I also spent a lot of time talking to Terry Daysum, who was just couldn't be nicer and more supportive. And you know, I think it's going to be a fantastic event for everybody involved.
Okay, down here, questions? Trustee Orsic.
I don't have any questions. I'm just very excited about it. Our residents love to have reasons to go outside, congregate, walk around, buy things. And we had people last year at the farmer's market come up to the booth and suggest other kinds of markets
Yep.
during the times that the farmer's market wasn't in session. So this is awesome.
When
Welcome.
you know, it's kind of interesting when we started the Chicago Artisan Market. Believe it or not, the word artisan was not in the lexicon of in-person events at all. I did a Google search, and I said, you know, there's craft fairs, and I said, you know, what about an artisan market? And I did Google search, and you couldn't find it. You couldn't find it anywhere in the Chicago area, and now we're you know, proud to have kind of built a new category of market that supports a lot of small businesses in throughout Chicago.
It's wonderful. Trustee Albinson, anything? Trustee Handler?
No, just saying, I think this is an awesome idea. It's going to be, I'm confident it'll be a big success.
And the other thing is, there's no alcohol, so it's, so from a public safety standpoint, honestly, we've never had any issues with that. The bad guys like Louis Vuitton and Lexus, and while we love artisan markets and artisan goods, there isn't much of a secondary market for it. So, and there's also no like street closures required either.
Well, just to get our calendar straight, we start with Memorial Day. Be an exciting
Yeah.
holiday. We go to the artisan market. We start the farmer's market the week after that, and we dovetail right into the Winnetka Music Festival, and then we get the 4th of July. So it's something to think about as
We'll be busy.
it'll be busy
Perfect.
and
And I should say one more thing. We actually visited Winnetka in 2019 when we came up with the idea of doing the North Shore Artisan Market, and I have to say, like back then there were some vacant storefronts, there was a long-stalled residential projects, and when we came back this last fall, the energy was just amazing. So whatever you guys have done and the residents have done, it's working because it's a big difference in 7 years.
well, that residential project is no longer stalled.
No, and the
people
retail
on the
looks
first
pretty.
row.
The retail looks pretty well leased too.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you for being here. Good luck with the market. Hannah, thank you for the presentations. We appreciate it. If there's nothing else to talk about up here, we'll move on to a vote on this. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number R30, 2026?
So moved.
Second?
And that's a roll call vote.
Trustee Albinson,
Yes.
Trustee Orsic,
Yes.
Trustee Handler,
Yes,
Trustee Dahlman,
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff,
Yes.
Trustee Myers.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Smith, welcome to Winnetka. Good to have you here. We'll move on to item 9. This is old business. Not that old, but it's old business. 9A, 736 Elm Street, Solid Core. Here for discussion of special use permit and policy direction. At the April 17th council meeting, council discussed a special use permit requested by Solid Core. That discussion was continued to tonight's meeting. And Community Development Director Scott Mangum is here to review the topic. Oh, Scott.
Yes, hello, good evening, President Dearborn, Village Council. Just very briefly, I'll recap. This is a special use permit request for a personal fitness studio within the C2 Commercial Overlay District. The floor plan that's proposed is before you on the slide here. And then the location of the proposed tenant space within the Winnetka building is shown in yellow in this slide. And just as a refresher, this did go before the Plan Commission on January 28th. The Plan Commission's recommendation was a 5-3 vote recommending denial. Some of their concerns were parking, noise trespass, and the overall number of special uses within the building and within the area. However, there was some support from commissioners about drawing new customers to the district and drawing a unique demographic. So with that, the Village Council is requested to provide policy direction, either for preparing documents for approval or denial. And as a result of the last meeting and discussion there, the developer, Murphy Development Group, did provide this slide deck that's included in the packet materials. And this evening, Deirdre Klein is here to provide a summary of those materials and then answer questions that you might have.
Terrific. Thank you, Scott. Again, some of the topics that were discussed at the Plan Commission were discussed a couple weeks ago, and I think Murphy Development Group and Solid Core are here to address some of the concerns and the issues that we talked about. Welcome back.
Good evening. Thank you for having us back. Deirdre Klein, representing Murphy Development Group, the owner and developer of One Winnetka.
Hi, Phil Golding, retail broker for Solid Core.
Hi, Heidi Blasey with Solid Core.
So knowing that you had this in your packet, I don't want to read verbatim off the slides, but we wanted to acknowledge that we responded to the comments and the questions that we heard at the last meeting, and really tried to provide a robust packet for you in advance of this. So generally speaking, I'll give an overview of the retailers that we did speak to, the more traditional retailers, provide a little bit of context on how retail is changing, and then Solid Core will also talk more about some of their logistics, particularly as it relates to parking. So at last meeting, there was a lot of questions about the retailers that we did speak to, what efforts were made, and I just want to reiterate that we really did pursue traditional retail. We spoke, not just spoke, these were all retailers that we had ongoing conversations with or reached out to us, provided info. Some of them even made it as far as an LOI. So these were serious potential tenants, and unfortunately, none of them came to fruition, and they will not be represented in this project. But we really did look to diversify and to address that, and so I wanted to make sure that that was known. Unfortunately, it looks like some of the text on this page is not on here. Oh, here we go.
It may float in, yeah.
Okay. So we also did a little bit more, provided a little bit more information on the retail market as a whole, and provided some info from a study that JLL did where it shows the contraction of traditional retail and really this shift that we're seeing in commercial spaces with food and beverage, fitness, and personal service uses driving the tendency for a lot of commercial. And so, not to say that retail can't still exist, but our project and our tenants are really a reflection of the national trends as well. And then just, I think there were some questions on kind of new construction and how that, why that would differ from existing storefronts, and maybe why retail works for historic existing buildings and they couldn't make it work in our project. And so part of that was new construction. The building is very different than something that was built 50, 100 years ago, as far as what we're providing from an MEP perspective, that we have different ADA compliance. There's just, our ceilings are higher. There's all these different factors that go in that make that add a premium essentially to the space, and so that's part of what drives why some tenants can't afford to be there. And then we talked a little bit about lease stability and that we're looking for these creditworthy tenants at the last meeting, and so just wanted to provide a summary here as well. So with that.
Great. Third time's a charm. Excited to be here tonight, guys. Heidi flew in from the East Coast. Her kids are with babysitters right now. You've had virtually the whole executive team from Solid Core fly into Winnetka, so making a lot of waves in the corporate office. Appreciate that, guys.
We'll be back for the arts market.
Yeah, we got to come back for the arts market. That's what we were joking about. This is from Placer, really cool company. If you guys don't use it at Winnetka, but this is visit duration. This came up in the last meeting. Just talks about what people do before and after. We'll hit that on the next slide, but this was one of the takeaways. We wanted to provide this to you. I think you'll see on the next slide that it's mixed. Let's flip to that. Do I just do the next one? Cool, so the customer journey. Most people come from their house. We'll talk about peak times. 5 to 9 a.m. is the peak time for a Solid Core customer, as well as, let's say, 4 to 8 p.m. as well. So during the day, not as much traffic density. I'd also like to remind, I can't remember the trustee who's on screen, but he mentioned a UPS truck that was blocking his visit to the site at one point. I'd like to remind the team here that Solid Core doesn't get deliveries. So that would not be a Solid Core UPS truck, by the way. Most people come from home. Afterwards, they have some decisions to make. Some people 21% go to other retail stores. So I think Trustee Orsic brought that up at a prior meeting. Would that help other businesses downtown? We certainly think so. The data does show that. Some people, 44%, go back home to shower, do whatever, and then bounce somewhere else, but it's kind of mixed. I think the dwell time shows that people go to other places, is what I'd probably tell you. They're going to get coffee, juice. Certainly helps the ecosystem of Winnetka. I think that came up in prior meetings. I was kind of confused by some of the feedback, but you don't hear other retailers complain about Solid Core. I think as a group, just to clear the air a bit, you might have some issues with the team, maybe in the direction I'm pointing, but not as much with Pilates or with Solid Core. So you can take it out on that person over there, and maybe Mr. Friedman could structure something to sanction them and let us proceed with Solid Core. So we can stop flying out here. But nonetheless, if you have any questions on this, be glad to answer it. It was just a takeaway from a prior meeting. Winnetka is a great market. We've been looking here for a long time, 20 years in the business. I think we've been looking in the North Shore for 10 at least. So we want to be here for sure. It's a great market. Kind of confused by some of the feedback and seeing that 5 to 3 denial that seems so wild to us. We're not really met with this type of feedback in other markets. Customer base is educated. They typically come from smaller households. I don't know if that matters much, but this was just a takeaway from a prior meeting, so we threw some of these stats in there. I think this is more relevant to where we're at today in 2026. When you look at the overlay district in 2016 and the number of retailers that were the biggest retailers in 2016 that don't exist in 2026, I think that's more telling. Fitness is the new anchor. You see fitness in every major retail project across the country. Regency, Pulte, every major developer wants some type of fitness aspect in their project. The halo effect speaks to kind of that diagram we showed, the trip chain, workout, coffee, shop, go somewhere else. Typically you go to a class, you've got something in your hand, protein shake, where do you get that? Hopefully somewhere nearby. A nice thing. Parking, I know it came up a lot. We'll get into that. So let's hit parking, which I think is actually next. So we created this for you guys. Takeaways for me, I mean, the easy one, look at that, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. We are the only business that operates during those times. Now, Fair is going to be open. I hope they do really well from 8 to 9 a.m., but they're not really known for breakfast. Hopefully the reporter who's here is not going to quote me on that and make Fair upset. 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. That's the prime of Solid Core. They're the only business open in the project. Just want to reiterate that for a second, just make sure everyone heard that. 4 to hopefully 11. The only other business would be the sit-down restaurant. That's prime time. That we hope people come from 9 to 4, but for 167 locations, that is not the way the business runs, 30 states across the country. So this was a takeaway from the last meeting. Put this together. Drop-off, right, the drop-off in retail activity. We are actually right. On Saturdays and Sundays, that came up in a prior meeting too. I was sitting here holding my tongue, so I wanted to make sure we focus on that. But on the weekends, this project does not have that much activity. Schwab is not open. It'll basically be the restaurant and Solid Core, which from a parking perspective is quite nice. So we can talk more about this or change the colors or update this, but really that peak morning period, Solid Core would be the only business open. I think a question came up on number of parking spaces. So the team over there that you can yell at later after we get this done counted. There's 93 spaces that are not open today that will be open upon this project delivering. We've driven it several times. We drove it again tonight. There was plenty of spaces open there. Again, no trucks for us. The uses, I think we should touch on that too. Maybe Heidi can reference it too, but Solid Core wouldn't want to be in this project without the uses that are there. A clothing store, which Trustee Orsic, I think, has referenced as something that the city wants, would be nice. Totally fine. Yes, we would like that too, but the uses that are there are certainly accretive to a fitness use. We've chosen this project because of that mix. So I think that's important maybe for us to talk about, and you can ask Heidi, Director of Development, about that. Parking study, we can talk about in more detail, and in some of the peak times, this is a more specific deep dive on some of the parking findings. These are some other things that kind of summarize what we see in all the 100 and close to 70 locations across the country, but it's the contra-cyclical peak hours. That's early morning, late evenings, after work. The predictable turnover, it's kind of that 50-minute hard stop. Some people do go other places, as the data shows. A good number also will just be in and out, and it's predictable. A restaurant, my mother, for instance, loves to dwell at restaurants for hours upon hours, drinking her white wine, and we can't leave until she's finished. She drives me crazy. Again, hope she's not listening to this. But that impacts parking. And so the Solid Core parking is a bit more regimented. It's a bit more known. I'd also like to reiterate that Heidi and the team have cut the number of performers down, which is a significant change. I think there was feedback from that first meeting about the design, look and feel, bathrooms. Heidi completely redesigned the entire location, resulting in less revenue for the business to make this more appealing to the Winnetka team. So that already reduces business already, which was a big decision, and a decision still to proceed to try and move forward with this project. I think this just covers that the retail market has certainly changed. If you want those studies to help tell you that, you can certainly look at those studies. You can also just look around and read the news. 200 plus visits from affluent customers would certainly help other businesses in the area. There will also be future market customers, hopefully, in next year's market, if that's also approved. I'll personally be there if this gets done. I think that's about it. If you have questions for Heidi, by all means. Thank you, guys.
Bring it up here, and well, like we said to Mr. Smith, welcome to Winnetka, because it's not surprising to me that you're getting some of these questions from our Plan Commission and from the folks up here. I mean, this is an important project, and there are definitely some concerns about Solid Core in the project. So we want to talk about it and see where we can go from here. Any
I have
questions?
just
Yes.
one question. Core Power and some of the other fitness places also sell some clothing inside. Do you guys have branded clothing or exercise wear that you sell in your studios?
At the moment, no. Our core business really is around the experience on the machine in the studio with a coach. Occasionally we'll have small amount of retail, like towels, we'll have some beverages. There may be some plans for limited edition drops, but as we kind of talked about, our low inventory, our low delivery, our low trash needs, we really kind of keep it to a service and experience.
Questions?
I
Trustee Handler?
have plenty.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of research on this. I was not here at the last meeting. I was on vacation,
We missed you.
yes, a very long-awaited vacation. But I have done a lot of homework, but still have a few questions. One, I think it looks like Solid Core is a great business. I mean, it looks certainly in that regard. I do have a lot of questions and concerns about, though, if that's the right spot for it. First, I guess I would ask Murphy here. I pulled out our caucus survey results from this year's survey. And I don't know if you're familiar with them, but one of the big questions that we asked they asked with 1,000 responses is what would Winnetkins like to see more of? And I'm holding up this little colored chart here for what you can see. The yellow here, across the board, the highest things people wanted were specialty grocery, more casual restaurants. The absolute lowest one, the purple, was more fitness centers. So one, I'm asking if you're familiar with those results, and two, how then putting this particular business in space helps meet the needs of what Winnetkins are asking for right now.
Sure. I'm not familiar with that survey, so happy to, if you want to send it on over, Scott, I would love to review it. But we are providing, there is a more casual restaurant in the building, so that we are addressing that, as well as another full-service restaurant. So I'm glad that it seems like that is a popular item.
Definitely.
But because I have not seen that it did not factor into our decisions.
Okay.
But we did not rule out uses that particularly, like, we were not ruling out any kind of retail or anything
I know
like
specialty food was a big deal, and I recognize that certainly in a new space, the rent is going to be a little higher than some of our older buildings in town. But and I looked at the list of the examples of the retailers you contacted, and I will tell you, if you look at the survey, people actually specifically said, please don't bring in any more high-priced luxury apparel, et cetera. We want things that, even everyday pricing can still be pretty expensive, but that's what they're looking for.
And we did also talk to
I
a
was
few
surprised that some of those retailers
market-type spaces.
Did you look at anything like, and again, not a mom and pop thing, but something like a foodstuffs, or maybe like a mini Eataly? That kind of thing would be, I think, very welcome in terms, because people keep asking for specialty food.
Yeah, and so this was now over a year ago before it sort of capsized, but we were in talks with Foxtrot actually at one point, and it was before we had signed our big restaurant lease, and we thought that would be a fantastic, that style of kind of grab and go, and but that did not pan out, and we were not able to find something else. There was another one from River North that was looking to come up here, but again, it just didn't, size-wise, I think it just didn't quite work out, but we did pursue that option. I will say, if you have not checked out Fair's website, they also do sell some like boutique olive oils and I think seasonings and stuff like that in there. So it is a little bit of it's definitely more food that you would order either to eat there or to go, but they do have goods that they sell.
Okay, well, thank you for that. You can see, I do feel an obligation to listen to what people are asking for in the community, and, hopefully landlords are looking at that too. The other issue, of course, that's been brought up a lot is parking. A couple things that relate to that, and this is a little bit going to SolidCore. I did look, and certainly you've been very successful even in Chicago, but I do see that every location except Buffalo Grove is in you described them as Boys Town, Wicker Park, West Loop, Bucktown. None of those are really car-oriented communities. I think most people either are working, they get off the subway, they're the bus, whatever. Those are walk-to locations, whereas, of course, this is very different here. So I am concerned about the parking. I also called a lot of, we do have a lot of boutique little fitness organizations here in Winnetka and Kenilworth and Glencoe. And I spoke to a bunch of those fitness center owners, and one of the first things they all mention is parking's the problem, and they chose their locations because they were a little more on the outskirts of town where parking wasn't a problem. They said the reality is we've got a class of 16 people and somebody has to park a block and a half away and walk in February to get to class. They are not happy. Either they're late, they're not in a good mood, et cetera. I think that is sort of the reality, and by being right here in the center of town, I think we really have to look carefully at because we're hearing it from other owners that parking for fitness facilities is an issue because of the influx of people at one point in time.
Yeah, I'd love
So-
to address some of those. So while Chicago, we do have far more urban locations here outside of Buffalo Grove. We hope this is the start of a wave of more suburban locations. Of our portfolio, we're all company-owned and operated, so I will also say that. About 70% are actually urban low-density or suburban markets. So we're very, very familiar with operating in vehicular-oriented markets. And for us, parking is a concern as well. It's something we really vet when we're going into a center. We are not always going main and wane. We really want to make sure that there's a convenient path for our clients to be able to come, park, and leave. We do open at 4:30, 5 a.m., and our clientele is younger and female. And so the parking journey is something that we vet pretty extensively before we even would approve it internally to pursue. So looking at the parking on-site and in the adjacent area here was something that we felt really comfortable with the occupancy of 15 machines.
Okay. And I guess I would just raise one other point, though. I know you mentioned a lot about on weekends that there's, you would be one of the only businesses. Yes, on that side of the street. However, on weekends, we have Little Honeycomb, Hometown, Sarah Campbell. We still have doctor's offices. We have a lot of retail where people are still parking right there looking for businesses. So again, it keeps coming back to parking, not necessarily just that particular strip that, of people who are going to be patronizing the stores in one Winnetka.
I appreciate that. There's 40, give or take, parking spaces on the weekends in this project. So not everyone is driving themselves. There's carpooling, parents, daughters, fathers, sons. I go with my dad to a workout class. So it's not 16 cars every time in 40 spaces. There's no one else operating during the peak times. That's what we're trying to convey. We wouldn't proceed with the project unless we were comfortable with the parking. We reject 99% of the sites that get sent to our team. So yes, we take that seriously.
I have to say, I don't think there's too many women in Winnetka who are carpooling to their exercise classes, though. Pardon? Okay.
I carpool at 6 a.m. sometimes, so.
Okay. Well, I'll take a break from my questions and give everybody else a chance for now, but I may have more.
No questions.
Well, the people of Winnetka are sick and tired of hearing about the fact I work out at 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'm no longer young, but I am female, and I do alternate between Salt in Kenilworth, Toned, which is now in Kenilworth, and Core Power, which is here in Hubbard Woods. I would say I see at all three of those locations, there's a pretty healthy number of women walking, even in the dark hours in February, because they are coming from the neighborhood. I don't know if you have zip code information that supported your decision to move into Winnetka, but I've got to believe you've got clientele here, just like Toned, which just opened, I think a week and a half ago in Kenilworth. They were operating out of a temporary, Town and Oak. They're from Lake Bluff, and I know they focused on this area because they had the zip code information of all the women who were driving up to Lake Bluff to work out. So do you have some of that zip code data showing that you've got people who probably will walk down the street from Lincoln or over from other places, so that they're maybe, depending on the weather and the day?
Yeah, definitely. So we're primarily a membership model. So we have clients who sign on to come to us on a regular cadence. Through that, it's not perfect, but I would say we have about 30 or so members, active members in other studios that are coming down from Winnetka, which is not 100% driving this decision. We also review the demographics and psychographics of the area, and it's a really nice alignment with our core consumer. I flew in earlier today, and pop by our Lincoln Park studio, which is our most recent open in the area. And one of the first questions I always ask is, if you could wave your wand and, put us anywhere, like where are clients requesting, where are people asking? And it wasn't just because I am fabricating this story, it truly is. The first thing she said was Winnetka. It's just a heavily requested. I think if you go into Reddit, there's a thread right now around just the need for something like that up here. And we do have dedicated clients that are driving 20, 30, 40 minutes from this area to be able to take class. So we'd love to be able to meet them closer to where they live, as demonstrated. Our build out is beautiful. However, we don't have showers. And so it really is a quick visit for somebody to come in, take class, and then usually go back home. So being able to locate closer to where people are living really is a priority for us for that convenience.
Yeah, and the other thing I would share, there is a Reform Pilates, I always say that wrong, sorry, studio that just expanded in Wilmette. And because my girls are very much into this workout, young women, I have been trying for 3 months to get a class there, and it's fully subscribed. So I fully believe that there's a demand. And I also play on a paddle team with a bunch of 30 and 40-year-olds, and I know they're going down to your Lincoln. They told me they're going down to their Lincoln Park location. So the other thing I would say is I think it's great. I mean, you have a 10-year lease. I can't believe it. I mean, I haven't seen a 10-year lease since 1992, and I'm a real estate lawyer. So I think that's a fantastic anchor for the retail space. I'm excited about it. I fully believe in it. I know it's like a cult following for your brand, and thank you for considering us. But I'm in support, and I have no concerns. I know, because this is what I do every day. After I work out, I hit a Starbucks, and then I go to the Grand. And I don't care how sweaty I am. Sorry, world. But there are those, when you showed that graphic of where people are going before or after, I think that's absolutely spot on. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you for that.
Trustee Dahlman for president. Thank you.
No, she works out way too much.
I don't sleep enough. That's
Scott?
the problem.
Questions? Thoughts?
I don't have any questions for Solid Core. I think it's sounds like a great business. Sounds like brings a lot of traffic. Here's what I'm wrestling with, and Deirdre, it's more to you, right? And I wasn't on the council when One Winnetka was approved, so I did go back through some of the the minutes of the Plan Design Committee and the conversations there. So Winnetka has a retail overlay district, and I get retail is changing, right? Luxury brands want to be clustered with other luxury brands, and this is, we're just not going to have a cluster here. I get that. I get that new construction is more expensive, which makes it harder for small boutique businesses. I get that. But One Winnetka came in, built that building, and in the conversation said, yeah, we'll have one financial services, yeah, we'll have one medical use. But the ground rules were there in terms of the retail overlay. And you've met them, right? You've got some great restaurants. That's great. I'm wrestling with this question of a special use exception just because it's been hard to find a retailer. Now, the question is, how hard is, how long do we wait? I am concerned about a precedent that would be for other new construction that goes up, which I do think we have to be much more explicit about as this council maybe talks to future developers on what our expectations are. But I'm really torn because we have a great business in Solid Core that would be a great tenant and bring people, and I think we can figure out the parking and on the weekdays, and we can figure that out. But I'm really concerned that we're giving up here, right? And it's something that I'm just I really need to feel more comfortable with.
So I guess from my perspective, and actually my undergraduate degree was in urban planning, so I know quite a bit about zoning. A special use it's not that these are uses that can't occur. They have to follow the procedures to get approval. So
Totally agree. Yep.
while we requested sort of a pre-approval of 2 uses during the plan development process with the village, it wasn't to say that we wouldn't look at any other special uses. We certainly wanted to find a mix of users for our project. So I think from our perspective, it's a little confusing to hear it as sort of we don't want any more special uses at the project, because our understanding was they just had to go through the necessary process. They had to apply, they had to prove out
Right.
the standards,
You're right.
they have to, and so it sounds like maybe that is interpreted differently here in the village, and
So you're exactly right, and that's why the management of Solid Core has had the joy of coming to Winnetka, because of the special use process. And the special use process is in place because we as a village want to reflect, have the opportunity to reflect on what kind of downtown do we want, right? And I think what I'm wrestling with is the kind of downtown that we have typically wanted is one that has a greater center of gravity toward retail. Now, retail has changed. We all buy into that. I get it. I get the new business model. I'm just struggling with, are we, in a sense, as a council, saying, well, if new construction happens, yeah, we may not have any retail there. And that's something that I would be very, very concerned about.
I think that's a really good question. But I don't think that a special use necessarily locks you in forever to abandoning the retail overlay. I think it doesn't necessarily, in my mind, set up a precedence. It certainly hasn't in the past. We've made exceptions to the overlay district when we thought it is a use that generates traffic and brings vitality. And I will remind people, part of the work stream for the comp plan, for the 2040 plan, is to really look at that overlay and question it. Is it really still viable? And should we think about amending it, removing it? Those were all things that we were supposed to be tasked with. But I think it's a good question. Are we just slowly eroding the overlay? And, we don't, as government, I don't believe, can tell a developer what to put in their space if it meets the special use criteria, which is what we're considering. And for me, and it's a tough one, for me, it's about what brings vitality to the space, which will help feed other businesses. I mean, Little Elm was a new little retail business. I don't think they could probably have afforded to go into One Winnetka. I mean, it's a small, beautiful kids shop, right? Really high quality, really, I think, pretty popular. But it went into a small space that's older. So I don't know if that type of really high quality business, that's well funded, by the way.
And vitality is key, but one of the criteria in a special use is the impact on the neighbor, right, on the other businesses. So, and as I think we've talked about here before, retail begets retail, right? It supports retail. Now, here we have something that has vitality. I'm going to take your metrics at face value, right? That a good percentage of people do come from or go to other places. So that is certainly an enhancement. But I guess, I'd really like to hear from the other council members in terms of this issue of, is this the salami method? We're slowly shaving away our retail overlay. And, I hate to lose a business that has vitality.
If I could just jump in, Trustee Myers, I really enjoy this conversation. I'd love to get a beer and talk about it, but we don't have that much time. But to respond to you, I'm fortunate to work on a lot of projects around Chicago and the state, and we got approached a long time ago without naming names, for a coffee store to be on Michigan Avenue. And the coffee store was going to be the largest coffee store in the world. And they wanted to roast coffee in that coffee store. And that was a special use because roasting coffee on Michigan Avenue is a manufacturing use. So we had to go seek a special use. Now, no one right now is complaining about the Starbucks roastery on Michigan Avenue. There's lines out the door. People go to every other store on Michigan Avenue. That was the perfect example of a special use. It worked out exactly, not hopefully to the magnitude that this works out, but in exactly what we're showing here, where people are going to wait in line, not wait in line, go somewhere else, bring life to a building that would have otherwise been vacant for who knows how many other years. Moreover, next door, we had to seek a special use for another tenant that did ear piercing, because ear piercing in the Michigan Avenue overlay district, the zoning code, was considered a tattoo parlor use. So we had to send notices out to everyone within, I think it was 100 yards of the ear piercing location. Now everyone knows Rowan and everyone knows studs, and that's very common now where men or women or young children get their ears pierced for the first time, which when that zoning code was written, very similarly to 2016 when this overlay district was written, no one expected that there would be ear piercing as a retail use. And so they got a special use. It is a very popular store. It's on Michigan Avenue called Rowan, and they have locations all across the country. So we're finding that the codes are not meeting the needs of the 2026 retailers. Vets, fitness, ear piercing, roasting coffee are all prime examples of special uses. We don't have to seek special uses in a lot of cities because the codes have been updated. I think this is actually our first one in Illinois, which is kind of fun. Hopefully we never have to do this again.
Well,
If-
the overlay district is in place.
Yes.
We might review it.
Yeah.
But, sorry to cut you off here, Phil, but we've heard from 3 trustees. Can we hear from the other 3 and get some thoughts?
I have some thoughts, and I will say that, Tina, I think our job in government is actually to figure out what we want in the village. Like, not to say, well, we can't pick who comes or whatever. That's why we have rules and guidelines and whatnot. So I like what I'm seeing about when you use most of your parking. I like that the weekends, there's some vitality there. I did not like seeing that there's nothing else in that building on the weekends, because that's exactly what we're afraid of, is a dead zone. So other than the 2 restaurants in Solid Core, there would be nothing going on in all of One Winnetka. And, go ahead.
That's actually over half of the commercial square footage, though, would the 2 restaurants and Solid Core.
Okay. When we were looking at the beginning of this, I think one of the reasons for the retail overlay is to not have like a medical center, a medical building, a banking building. I like this business. I can get my mind around this business. What I would like to see next to it, instead of another medical use, would be something that dovetails with it, an Athleta, Fabletics, an Aloe, like something like that, where all of the people coming to use this could go next door and shop, and half of our village wears those kinds of things. I would feel better about this if we could be continuing to seek for that last spot instead of a medical use, which only one medical use was ever really contemplated. If we could find something else that could add to the vibrancy and that would be open on the weekends and that people could go in and out of.
Retail.
A retail, yes.
So the last user, Duet, unfortunately was pushed from last week's planning commission. So she will be coming before the planning commission on March 25th. I think before you write off her use, I think you'll really understanding what she does. There is a retail component, actually. She sells headphones besides hearing aids. She has a musical session teacher who comes in and does stuff, and she has a not-for-profit as well who, or that she works with. And so she said that she has a location currently in Lake Forest, and she gets a lot of foot traffic, actually, that just comes in the door wanting to understand, what her business is about. So I would say before you write her off,
let her give
No
her
one's writing
spiel.
her off, Deirdre.
No,
No one's
okay,
writing her
I
off.
just,
But I think that, just take the comment for what it's worth.
Yep.
A little more traditional retail, I think, is what Trustee Orsic, something that would dovetail into solid core a little bit. Just make her and maybe others feel more comfortable about this. So no one's writing off Duet. They're going to go through the process.
Okay, well, and just to be clear, we have a signed lease, so I cannot go looking out for other tenants at this point.
Okay,
So
that's
until she comes before you, there's nothing else I can
Okay,
do.
well, We're here for
other
solid
tenants.
core. Bridget, anything else at the moment? Trustee Apatow?
You know, this has been one that's been a one of the harder decisions, and it's not it's just because I like the business so much, and I can't get over kind of the not a retrade, but we're pretty clear, and I think the Plan Commission is pretty clear too, about we wanted to give One Winnetka, so we love the group, love what they're doing. We wanted to give them a jump start in the market, and that's, you know, approving the financial, approving the medical. We wanted to give a jump start in the market, but I'm sorry, I just don't buy with what's been going on in retail. Yes, it's changing, but I don't buy that they can't find one retail use in this market. I'm sorry. I've talked to other people in other communities, and I have trouble approving special use after special use in this without any retail. So, like what Bridget just said, there are certain elements that with parking, if it's from 5 to 9, you know, hometown will be busy. No one else is really open that early. Retail, they're not going to be going to other retail because most retail there doesn't open until 10 o'clock. So we're not going to get that kind of bump as people are kind of saying that they will. But I think we were pretty clear that we wanted retail in that spot. And I want the solid core business. I want them in Winnetka. I think there's issues of parking. I've spoken to many of the retail businesses down there. They're very concerned, as you can imagine. I don't know if there's a way to, if we agree to this, put the parking inside of the One Winnetka's building, so we're not using up street spaces for that will, you know, that will worsen the condition with our other retailers already in the village in that area. So it really is more, it's not anything to do with the business. It's to kind of what we've discussed with Murphy and Winnetka when they came in about what was expected in that area. And I don't, you know, saying that we really didn't say we wouldn't bring other special uses doesn't mean you're going to bring every single one as special use as well. And that's just a concern to me that we kind of right now are washed retail out of the whole discussion, and that's a concern.
Thank you for sharing. I did want to address one other thing with parking that I know has come up in previous conversations, and that is around our schedule. We do run classes pretty back-to-back throughout the day to meet the demand. We were asked to take a look at that schedule. Our typical is to do 10 minutes between classes. We do find people come in, come out, but I think there was concern if there was any dwell that the capacity, like the strain on the parking would be greater. We took a look at it, and while 10 minutes between classes is our standard across 167 locations, we would be willing to revisit that here and expand it out to 15 minutes to really give that time for the turnover, if that helps.
Rob, anything else?
Can I just
Deirdre?
address
Go
one
ahead.
thing from Trustee Apatow? Because Trustee Handler, you just presented this survey that said the uses, the use that people wanted to see the least more of was retail goods, right? Or like
No,
apparel, luxury.
Fitness centers.
Oh,
That was
okay,
the
pardon me.
last thing.
Okay.
Not saying that it's not a good business, that was the last thing that people had prioritized.
I think everyone keeps referring to retail, and I'm very confused what retail means when the trustee mentioned that. I can't remember the trustee's last name. But is that clothing? What is I guess for trustee to address your most recent comments, when you keep saying retail, what does that mean? Because I'm confused.
I think it's selling any kind of product.
things with
Selling a
sales
product.
tax?
Selling
Is
any
that
kind of product.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, it's defined,
We call, this project has a retail mix. This is this is a current retail mix. This is what we typically see on a lot of projects.
I mean,
these
our
days.
zoning on this might be antiquated. We're going to revisit it.
Sure.
However, we have businesses that are zoned by right in this location.
Sure.
And I think anything by right, we would be obviously
Yeah,
happy, we wouldn't be talking about it. So
Copy
you
that.
can see the items that are by right. We have that in our zoning code.
Yep.
And so, trustee Alvinson,
Just want to make sure, are we doing public comment
We
after
will
discussion?
after-
Okay. So, it's been interesting, enlightening, and it sounds like maybe a clear division with opinions or thoughts from council. My general reaction and feeling is that I'm in support of this application. You know, I'm coming, a lot of my background's coming from the design perspective, less about the technicalities. In fact, I'm going to just lay it all out. I honestly, in my whole life, had never differentiated between commercial and retail when I think about, let's say, commercial districts. When I think about use, I think about the impact of the community. I'm going to maybe second some of the things that Tina mentioned. You know, the word vitality, improving or increasing the vitality of the community. I'm less concerned about a technical definition of what counts as retail versus what counts as commercial. And, you know, like the individual just said, I mean, whether we're selling a product or a service is less important to me, but what is important to me is how does this impact or improve our downtown? And I think this type of business, a service business that is not insular to itself, but also attracts the, whatever, folks that use a facility and then will likely frequent other establishments in our downtown, I think is a win-win. And I don't think we should overlook that. I get concerned about if we're going to draw a line in the sand and not knowing the numbers that, and I am a developer, but not knowing the numbers that the developer has that they have to live by. But I do believe them in terms of their need for credit-worthy tenants. I do believe them in terms of the rents in this building will be 50% higher than any of the other antiquated buildings in the community. And it's a really narrow field of the potential users that they could attract. I think we can all optimistically think that we're a hot commodity in the market and that we would attract name brand outfits like Lululemon or whatnot. The reality is they just won't come here. And I'm not a retail expert. I've done limited mixed use in my career, but it is such a tough market to crack, especially, and I agree with a lot of points I made in their presentation that as time goes on, I believe that there's going to be this constant or continual consolidation of retail until it is completely different than what we all grew up as with kids. I am, and I said this maybe on occasion, whether it was here or previously serving on Design Review Board, that I believe we should be rethinking or future-proofing and thinking about where the market is headed, not where it's been in sort of this idealized version of what it was, you know, a century ago. And I believe like a service offering like what Solid Core is bringing to the community is more of what the future is than, let's say, unique boutique mom and pop retailers that have, let's say, you know, high-priced goods or limited goods that will appeal to a very small amount of the market that won't necessarily drive the same amount of traffic and interest in our downtown. So, you know, totally separate topic. I have zero experience working with our retail overlay district, but I think it is something that we do need to revisit. And I would hate to lose a potentially great long-term tenant in our community, knowing that, you know, maybe within a short window of time in the future, we're going to be revisiting this whole conversation just across the whole community.
I think a little different though. I hear you on that. I think we've had a lot of good retail show up lately. We've had, you know, we've had 4 or 5 very successful clothing shops, women's clothing shops that are thriving right now. You know, Winnetka is a little, yeah, no, you're right. We're not that special, but we do have a situation where we just don't go for the last buck. We don't put in weed shops. We don't put in things that other communities put in. So I think we should, I think our community does expect that from us, to be a little more thoughtful about being a little tougher and having a little bit higher standards to orchestrate who we bring in and how we bring them in. I just look at the past situation where what was said to the Plan Commission, the reason they voted it down is because what the agreement or the spoken discussion about what Winnetka and Murphy thought they could bring into that space. I'm not saying it's got, the good part is we all agree on the business. We want them in Winnetka. But I don't think we can just dismiss what the Plan Commission did and kind of what were our promises to retail in this community.
If I could add just a couple more thoughts. I really believe we should be evaluating each application for what it does for our community, not just the technical definition of what it is. So two thoughts. Number one, I don't know anything about Charles Schwab and what they're going to be putting in this building, but if it's just for individual, let's say, wealth management, I'm like, was that really the best choice relative to something like that? Would we choose that over this? And I think about, like, one of the banks I use is Wintrust right up the street. And I feel like that's got a very much of a community feel where people are coming in and out all the time. They've got cookies. I know all the bankers by name. They dine at our establishments. But then I contrast it, and I'm not saying anything negative about our other financial institutions in town, but the ones that have, let's say, private wealth management, it's like a closed door. You don't want to be seen going in there. I don't know anybody that goes in these buildings. I'm like, okay, they're both banks, but which one do you think is more vital for our community? And on Solid Core, they're a services organization, but if they had come to us and said, we've got this big retail frontage where we sell whatever, water bottles and different equipment that goes along, and by the way, we do services in the back of the building. If they had that type of setup, would we say yes? So it's like, what's the fine line we're drawing here, and what are we trying to do? I mean, if we're bringing in the amount of people that they're proposing that are going to come into our downtown and frequent the other businesses, I think that's a win-win.
Can I just, before we go to public comment on this, you're getting a diverse group of thoughts on this, and I'm hoping that I don't have a vote on this, quite honestly. But if I did have a vote on this, I would share some of the concerns and some of the positive feelings. I would share the concern of Trustee Orsics that she likes Solid Core, but if Solid Core is going in, there's this other space that's going to be adjudicated in a few weeks and so on and come to us ultimately. We may want a more traditional retail that dovetails with Solid Core. I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves here, Deirdre, okay, on this. I agree, Tina, I think, wherever Tina is. Yeah, I agree that we're not here to tell One Winnetka what to do. There was discussion. I mean, I think we are well aware of the whole process of One Winnetka. Even before you were One Winnetka, we were following this, and so we knew kind of what the thinking was there. And Kirk, this does impact other businesses in that area. We can't dismiss the impact of parking. We have to address that because several retailers in that district, East Elm District, have talked to us about their concerns about retailing. Trustee Apatow, about parking. Trustee Apatow talked about that. When I think Trustee Myers brought up the issue of staggering the classes from 9 o'clock to 4 or whatever it is, because that is the time, 15 minutes wasn't really the time frame we were thinking about, quite honestly. Scott, I mean, you remember that conversation? I think we were, 30 minutes was talked about, 20 minutes was 15 wasn't talked about, just for the record here. But that parking issue is a major concern. We all know it, we hear about it. I think Trustee Apatow made a good suggestion that maybe if there are 12 or 14 cars per class or whatever, maybe Solid Core can encourage those cars to end up in the One Winnetka parking lot, if possible, so the street parking isn't taken. So I think there's still a little bit of work you could do. Again, I may not have a say in this, but I think that's an issue that still needs a little refinement. Maybe we can get to that point tonight, if possible. But So I don't know how this is going to lay out tonight, but if it's okay, we can open up for public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, okay, we'll move on and we'll bring it back here. For any further discussion, you've heard it all, we've heard people's views. Any other final thoughts before we?
I have one more thought.
Okay,
Well,
Trustee
two
Handler.
thoughts. One, just sort of getting back to the parking and this chart about what people are going to do before and after class, it's almost like we can't have it both ways. If we think people are going to go to the class and then hang out and go get a coffee and shop around town, they're not just parking there for an hour. They're parking there for more than an hour. And then the new class comes in, and now we've got another whole crop of people that are parking. So, you know, I feel like the logic we can't have it both ways here. Either people are coming to class and then leaving, and I think you mentioned you don't have shower facilities, most people will go home. So therefore, the halo effect of shopping afterwards, I think, sort of falls apart, other than, as Tina said, the most popular thing that I think people do is they grab a coffee, go do a quick grand errand, and then go home. So they would be leaving. So again, I feel like we don't have enough good information there. I'm also concerned, just like Scott and Bridget mentioned, that we're looking at a whole block where it's not just special, potentially a lot of special use permits, but every business, in a sense, is only patronized people that belong to it, and I'm putting that in quotes. So for instance, the people going to Schwab are only the people who have accounts at Schwab. The people going to Solid Core would only people who have memberships. If we have another medical facility, they'd only be people who are seeing that medical practitioner. So it's not really bringing a lot of vibrancy and different people walking up and down the street and visiting. It's bringing a very narrow group of, quote, people that belong to those organizations. So, you know, I love the business. I'm just not crazy about it being there.
Thank you, Kim. Other final thoughts? Scott, any final thoughts from you?
I have gone back and forth on this, quite honestly, and I'm sure others have. You know, Kirk, I think, said something, you know, that resonates, right? If I don't want to suggest this, but if you were to say, oh yeah, we sell water bottles. That is a key line of our business. We're going to have water bottles out in the front selling water bottles to anybody who comes in. We would say, well, that's a retail, right? And that's a little bit of us kind of wink, wink, you know, turning a blind eye to really, I think, what people were thinking about with retail. But that would pass, right? We would say, yeah, okay, fine. It's about the vitality and bringing people into the downtown. I hear your point, Kim, that, you know, I think the parking, it's at 30% of the people, right, will go somewhere else, right? So out of 16, you know, somewhere, a couple people will go spend some time downtown. I think we can work the parking out to handle something like that. I don't think 15 minutes is going to cut it, but, you know. You know, I guess I don't like the idea, as Bridget said, of the next one in this building coming and being another service. And I hate prejudging, but this is, you know, this is a business that brings vitality, that brings people in. It seems to be a model that is stable and in high demand. So, I mean, I guess I can wrap my head around it. As I said, I've gone back and forth on this.
Well, let's see where you end up.
Do you mind, I just have another thought or comment I want to make about parking. I mentioned this the last time we talked about this, right? We're sort of a victim of our own success here, right? Everyone wants Winnetka parking when we had the recession, right? When we had high vacancies, because then you could park right in front of wherever you're going. And now that we have successful business district, people don't want businesses, or they don't want businesses with people because they want to park. So it's like, we've got to pick our hard here. And I would rather pick a vital business that adds more in terms of the vitality and people visiting other establishments, and make parking tougher than going with an establishment that is going to, let's say, demand fewer trips or visits. You know, the other comment, just I think to be fair to the developer, they are providing on their property. How many parking stalls is it?
39.
39.
39. How many other businesses in that whole district provide on-site parking for their customers? Not meaning to blame a hometown because I love the place. I go there, that's my office away from home. But when I go, like, I'll stay for an hour or two. And in the summer, I ride my bike, but it's like, in the winter, I drive. And then I'm one of those people that is hogging up the parking. And they have a lot of capacity there.
That parking was by intent, though, Kirk. I mean, that was not by accident.
No, but I want to make a point
It's
that.
part of the
Correct.
development
Public,
agreement and semi-public benefit, et cetera, et cetera.
correct.
So,
But we look at the impact of this one occupant having, what, 15, 17 stalls at probably consistently throughout the day versus, and I'm blaming hometown here because they're a great success for our downtown. And how many stalls do they use throughout the day, throughout the entire day? So it's like, let's just be, you know, let's be relative to how we're thinking about parking.
so on the
now.
parking, Heidi and Scott, I think we're going to vote on this tonight. So we have to address the parking and get it resolved to our comfort level. Is 15 minutes as far as you can go on that?
15 minutes is a stretch for us, to be honest. I mean, we talk about the stability of our business and us signing on for a 10-year lease. We have
But
parameters.
We're not worried about 5 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And we're not worried about 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. We're worried about 8:30 or 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So you could keep the 10 minutes in the early hours and stretch it out a little bit in the main hours, because by your own graphic, we show the one Winnetka, the businesses are all Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's the time frame.
Really, they're 10 o'clock. I mean,
Well,
like
10 whatever.
Maze
But
Home
if you
doesn't
could
open
see
till 10.
fit to move those
20
hours.
minutes, yeah, 5 days a
that-
week.
5 days a week from 9 to 4 or whatever, do 20 minutes and the others do 10 minutes, I think could be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, 20 minutes is double what we have in any other studio, so we definitely hear your concerns. We can take a look at it. Honestly, it has to pencil on our end too, to make the investment to come here, to be able to have enough classes and support the demand.
But you were saying 15 minutes all day long?
No, we took a look at the peak hours that overlapped with other retailers.
So you were talking 15 minutes only for what is the proposal?
From 9 to 5, I think we did the study of adjusting the number of classes that we could offer to meet 15-minute gap between classes from 9 to 5, where we would anticipate the heavier need for parking for other retailers.
20 minutes from 10 to 4. I mean, we can make it, if we vote on this, then it's kind of like, well, this is what we're willing to
Yeah, that's what we're
offer.
voting
Well,
on.
I mean,
I don't want to negotiate up here.
I mean,
right?
they
This
know
is-
their business, right? I mean, and they know what works financially. I personally, again, I know I'm in the minority, but why would you mess with a successful business that is going to potentially bring, 180 to 200 people into your business district every day?
Because of the parking.
Because of the parking, when you're talking about a demographic, it's not somebody who's 70 years old who's, upset because they can't find a parking space in front of the bookstall. These are women that if they can't find the parking space, they will park down by the Village Green, right? So I think, sometimes I just don't think we should micromanage a very successful business that operates in very similar locations around the country to Winnetka. That's my
I
feeling.
actually agree with Tina, like, they do have to make their money and they do have to make their numbers.
15 minutes?
I'm okay with 15
And
minutes.
the 15 minutes, Heidi, is from 1 to 1.
We studied from 9 to 5.
9 to 5, 15
expanding,
minutes,
and then
okay.
10 minutes otherwise.
Okay, 10 minutes otherwise. You're hearing the comments, so I don't know, but if that's what you're suggesting, then we'll just go with that, and any other, I'm sorry. Good point. The village manager is saying this is policy direction, so there would be a final vote on an ordinance. So this is, you're just getting some flavor here.
Are we not voting?
We are going to, well, we're going to
gonna
vote on
vote
a
to
policy.
set
We're
policy
going to vote on setting policy there. Based on, with conditions.
Right, but the actual vote on the approval or denial happens at the next meeting. So this is the policy direction to prepare the document that will be voted on.
So we would prepare an ordinance, we would direct staff to prepare an ordinance, or village attorney to accept this permit with a condition of 15-minute classes from 9 to 5 o'clock. I think that's what we're going to vote on for policy.
On Monday
here.
through Friday, correct?
Yes.
Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday. Any final comments before we move to this vote? Trustee Apatow?
Are they open on the weekends? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yes.
they're open, Fair is open, and Arcadia is open. The other businesses are not open.
So the 15 minutes, that doesn't apply on the weekends, at least? 15 or 20 minutes, whatever we ask them to do?
I mean, Rob, my sense is that given the business district has other businesses which are not that busy on the weekend, that the 15-minute requirement probably is not necessary, right? You don't have, across the street, you don't have the township office open, for example. You don't have Charles Schwab that's open.
But Saturday, during the farmer's market, during the entire summer, it's wild down there. So
Well, I mean.
I guess that's one of my comments. The other one is I'd like a thought. I mean, I have spoken to many retailers down there, and for us to go back and say, we're not only not going to have retail, we're going to have something that's going to bring traffic in. What is their thought on using the One Winnetka parking for these classes, so we can go to the other retailers and say, we're asking them to self-contain in that building?
Would Solid Core encourage your members to use the One Winnetka parking?
We can definitely do that.
They can encourage it, Rob. They can't mandate it, but they can encourage it.
I get they can't mandate it, but I think it should be kind of a hard encouragement or hard request.
Well,
Yeah.
if we can just maybe move this along here and just get a vote on this.
It's a vote, Bob. It's conditional to me on that, on fixing that parking piece. So,
Well, the condition, Rob, that we have at the moment is 15 minutes from 9 to 5 on the weekdays. I don't know that there's the appetite to go on the weekends up here, but, I mean, that's my sense.
I mean, from our study, we wouldn't anticipate that on-site parking demands would require that.
On the weekends,
On weekends, correct.
on the weekends. So I think, Rob, the weekends are probably, you're right, there may be some summer weekends that it's a little bit busy, but they're, 52 weekends. And
The other side of that is that the farmer's market is probably something that people would want to go to after working out, that might benefit and have
Oh,
more
sure.
people.
sure.
all right, well, why don't we see where this is? We'll just do this vote, Deirdre, if that's okay on this.
I'll make a motion.
All right, hang on one second. We're looking for policy direction, so we're going to make a motion to. Okay. We're going to direct the staff and the village attorney to prepare an ordinance to permit this special use in this location with the condition of the hours of the classes being separated by 15 minutes from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock on weekdays. And we'll just do a roll call vote on that. Can I have a motion on that?
And that Solid Core will use their best efforts to encourage their patrons to park in the off-site parking.
Do you get that part of the motion? Tina, do you want to make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Let's just do a roll call vote and see where this goes. Kristen?
Trustee Dahlman,
Yes.
Trustee Albinson,
Yes.
Trustee Handler, Trustee Orsick,
Yes.
Trustee Myers,
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff.
With those conditions, yeah.
Okay, so that policy motion passes. Thank you. It's not the end of the road, but it's close to the end of the road. And thanks for coming to Winnetka. For those of us who visit that area, and, you know, we are very, very supportive, there's no question about this, of this project. And I think, Deirdre, you know this. I think you heard some comments about looking forward here. Take them for what they are, okay? All right, thank you for coming in town. We appreciate it. All right, we'll move on. New business, we have none. Appointments, we have one to the Environmental, Forestry, and Sustainability Commission. One of the really good members on that commission travels a lot, couldn't make the meetings. Brendan Andrew, he's a terrific young man. But we're going to replace Brendan with another terrific young person who everyone met here, Ben Dietz. Ben is the person who presented on the Willow Road flashing light at Berkeley and Euclid. So Ben is terrific. Kristen's gotten to know Ben. I've gotten to know Ben over time here. He'll be a fantastic member. And so may I have a motion to approve this appointment?
So moved.
Second?
And that's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, Ben, welcome to the EFSC. He'll do terrific work. Item 12, we have a closed session tonight. I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of discussing specific personnel and probable and pending litigation pursuant to Sections 2C1 and 2C11 of the Open Meetings Act.
And Section 2C2 for the review of counsel for the village.
Okay. That's not in my,
I know, I just added it.
you just added, okay. Whoever is
That's me.
picking
It's
this
on
up,
me. That's on
pick
me.
that up. Under the motion, when we adjourn the closed session, this public meeting will automatically and immediately adjourn without the conduct of any further business or comments. May I have that motion?
So moved.
Second?
And Kristen, that's a roll call vote.
Trustee Albinson,
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman,
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff,
Yes.
Trustee Myers,
Yes.
Trustee Orsick,
Yes.
Trustee Handler.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And Rob, you'll come into the meeting momentarily. Okay,
Yep.
thank you, everyone.